CrowdStrike.
So what were you saying though about
So Microsoft and CrowdStrike have they're saying basically they just went down and people like it's had flights, it's canceled flights, internet problems. Yeah, so CrowdStrike says widespread disruptions were not the result of security incident or cyber attack. Can you see if you can see the private chat? We are the show before the show, you guys. Okay, I'm going to type it. Yeah. Oh, shoot. This is a different computer than I normally use.
I've got a delay. Do you hear that delay?
No.
On Lizzie's mic.
That's because one of you guys have your phones turned up. You need to mute your phone.
Oh, that's because our phones are up.
Do you have yours up?
Yeah, probably mine. I do that almost every day.
I'm sorry, you guys couldn't hear me when I was talking.
All right, the show before the show. Oh my gosh. Okay, this looks like nonsense on this. Hold on.
Okay, and my private chat's up. David.
Do you guys see that?
Right now?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
As we speak.
Awesome.
Do you see that, Joe?
Yeah, I'm curious of what. Yeah.
Can we go back later?
Probably.
Take a little look at that?
Yeah.
Did you see?
I see.
Sherry in the chat line? Perfect stuff for Conspiracy Friday.
I know.
You know?
Free for all.
That's why you got to have a Friday where you can talk about people's craziness and crazy stories and conspiracies.
That's right.
Speaking of, do we have Eric Johnson or?
No, Eric Johnson is not here. He is with, no.
Oh,
I don't know what Kelly's doing, but I do know that
Eric's with
PRL's in Lake of the
Hulk
Ozarks.
Hogan?
I forgot. Yeah.
Yes, he definitely is. It is, Terry.
Good morning, Greg.
It is a ladies' day.
Ladies' Day.
Ladies' Day.
Ladies and gent.
Ladies and a gent.
Trigger,
That's right.
Meigs, and Joe show.
Hey, I can identify as however I want to identify, okay?
That's
right.
Today, I guess I'm a lady.
How are you feeling today?
I guess today I'm a lady.
Okay. Lady Joe.
Love it.
True, Robert. Lots of speculations as well, as you and I
That's right.
were talking about last night. Heather, are you referring to being stuck there because of the flights?
Yes. A lot of people cannot get home.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff going on, and it's that cyber issue and all that.
Mhm.
All right. What time are we? Right. That's why I
Okay.
said that. So
Okay.
probably.
Okay.
What? Okay. We've got a few minutes. We got so much. Free for all Friday.
What a night last night, too.
It was. I'm
Wasn't
so
that just
tired in a
amazing?
good way. I'm tired in a good way. Because
Yeah.
did you stay up and watch the whole
No,
thing?
I was like, I thought it was going to maybe be 30 minutes.
Yeah, it was supposed to be an hour and a half and it was over 2.
Yeah. And I told you, I
Yes.
was like, I'm going to go to bed at a decent time because we just flew in last night and
Mhm.
whew, I fell asleep on my
Yeah,
best guy.
right.
So it's not cyber. However,
Yeah.
they can't make sure that there's enough flights for everyone to get home. That's really interesting. I agree, Heather. I loved all 4 days of the RNC. I thought
I
it
did
was
too. It was so good.
much
It was so
fun.
good.
And, you know, last night I was just cracking up because I was like, what is the DNC going to do? I mean, it
Mhm.
is going to be a snooze fest.
Yes.
It's got to be. There's no way that they can compete with what the Republicans did the last week.
All right. Are we about ready to start the show? Are we ready?
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. I think we're ready. Good morning and happy Free for All Friday. It is Red Day. You wear red for the military, you wear red for the RNC. And so we girls are wearing red because we got the memo. We didn't give the memo to Projo. I'm sorry.
I thought
Projo.
we did. I apologize.
Yeah, I think it was
you still look
tired.
I was
handsome as ever,
snoozing when
though.
I got the memo.
Oh, so you did
Oh,
get the memo.
okay.
Okay, good. Well, it was long. I mean, last night, many of us for 4 days have been watching the RNC, and it's been wonderful. And Trump's speech was great too, but boy, it was long, long, long. And so we've got some highlights from the RNC. I loved how Donald Trump talked last night. I think many of us would say it's a completely different Donald Trump. But I don't know it's worse. It's just different. And I like that he's talking about God. We have a lot from last night. The biggest majority of our show is we're going to be talking about that, about what happened last night at the RNC. But we're also going to be talking about what's going on? Is there a cyber attack? Is there not a cyber attack? Because I know I woke up to a lot of stories about that this morning. I was not affected by that. Vic is affected by that. Vic will be back on Monday. He went out of town this weekend. And last I talked to him, he was still sitting in the airport at midnight last night. But I don't think he knew it was a cyber attack last night. So we're dealing with that. I think a lot of people at the RNC also are sitting there because they can't get home too. And I probably should stop calling it a cyber attack because they're saying they don't know if that's what it is yet, but it affects Microsoft and a lot of other people. And I think why people are going straight to it's a cyber attack is because you can probably see if we do everything automated, how scary that becomes. We had a phone issue with AT&T a couple weeks back as well. And so we're also going to talk about the latest updates about the shooter and about the Secret Service and all of that fun things. And so the first thing, I'm kind of excited this morning. It's interesting. There's trolls on here. And Joe, you can get rid of Lindy, who's a troll on here. And and I'm going to address it just briefly. There's a lot of trolls when people run for office. Okay. And so I was told by my attorney, there was a story last night run about me. And there was a story that came out that someone is alleging I'm doing something for a political reason. And doing it for a political reason could not be further from the truth. And so I am innocent. And as my attorney says, my client strenuously maintains her innocence, and out of respect for the process, she's chosen not to make a statement at this time. So I am addressing that because I am seeing, and I thought about maybe not addressing it, but I'm seeing people I've never seen on the show before trolling the show, which we figured that would happen. And that's okay. We like trolls too. Yeah.
Well, and unfortunately, there are people that love to stir the pot. They obviously, wake up probably on the wrong side of the bed, and they choose to, find the negative in things and point fingers. And that's been happening a lot in the last 4 years, just as a whole. I mean, our country and people as a whole, they just choose to listen to one side of things, and look where it's gotten us. So yeah, you just have to ignore those people that choose to live like that. I can only imagine what the rest of their day is going to look like. If they live like that. So, the people that come on and want to point fingers and attack and, make judgment calls before anything's even been rectified.
Correct. And and that's where it, and some people could just be trolls because I've not ever seen them on here. And other people could be Democrats. And if they're conservatives in America, you are innocent before you're proven guilty. I've not even gone to court or any of that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to leave it at that because, my attorney told me to, but I will be adamant I am innocent.
Yes.
So,
and whether they're trolls, they're Democrats, they're bored, whatever, it's childish.
It is childish.
No matter who you are or what way you look at it, it's childish to come on and just act like a 5-year-old.
Correct. Yeah. And I've learned, and like Vic has said too, you can't always trust. And my microphone is going in and out. Can you hear that? Okay. So my microphone's going in and out. But anyway, so we can go on and let's talk about the RNC. There's been 4 days about the RNC. So do you have any highlights that you liked from last night?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think that my adrenaline has been on full charge since the attempted assassination of President Trump. And so I feel like last night, seeing him and hearing him talk, it was almost like the air was let out of the balloon. I was like, and you got to see him and all of his humanness. And I just was sad. I just, like I said, the adrenaline was gone and I was just sad. I just thought, gosh, what he went through and what his family went through and what the 3 beautiful, innocent attendees that were severely affected and one died, what them and their families have been through this past almost week. It just really resonated with me. I just thought, gosh, these are humans, and it's not a movie. This is real life, and just to hear him and for him to say, I'm okay, and I'm going to continue to stand by you, you Americans, and for this country. And I thought his speech was beautiful. I loved how he said that he was going to stand by every American and not just half of America.
That's right.
I thought that
That's
was
right.
really powerful. But there were so many awesome parts that I absolutely loved. The people that spoke for him. I mean, Dana White, of course. I mean, you can just feel the love that guy has for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then just seeing his family and his grandchildren, and I hope that the left took a minute to watch some of the RNC, and I hope that they got to see that this man does not want to be a dictator. He is not a threat to democracy. He truly loves his country, and he knows what family is. He knows what God is, and he knows what it's like to be a patriot.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
and I think our Republican Party, if you look at the RNC, it has changed a lot. It's not the old Republican Party that we had. It's it's very eclectic now. Because did you ever think that you would see Hulk Hogan come out the way he did?
no.
And I heard some people last night really liked Hulk Hogan and some didn't.
Yeah.
What was your thought on Hulk Hogan?
So I grew up watching wrestling. So my two brothers and my dad, we the four of us, we absolutely loved wrestling. WWE, WWF. And so to hear that voice, that just iconic voice come out, I was laughing. I mean, it just, the whole thing just made me feel like a kid again.
Yes.
And I think that was part of it too. It was fun, and it was funny, and it was lighthearted. And I'm sure that there's some people going, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that you had, Hulk Hogan ripping apart his shirt at the RNC. But again, it's just all about fun and just showing the human side of not just Trump, but, all Republicans. So, I like how he came and he's like, okay, so I gave you a taste of Hulk Hogan, but now I want to talk about who I am. And, and I'm a man that loves this country and, really looks up to Trump. So I did. I thought it was really cute.
I did too.
But I'm a huge wrestling fan.
Yeah,
so,
well,
and it is real. So for all of you that are saying it's not real, it's real.
It's
That's
real.
right.
Well, and I never really got into wrestling. And so last night when I was watching Hulk Hogan, I watched how Donald Trump, it was probably good relief for him because everything's been so serious. And Pro Joe, we do have a clip about Hulk Hogan on here, and it was his interview, I believe, with Brett Baer. And I liked his reasons why. He tried to stay out of politics, he tried to stay out. And Glenn is saying at first he was thrilled, but by the time he finished, he was awesome. So here we go with Hulk.
Crowd behind you. You're going to speak to him.
I can't wait. This is going to be like body slamming the giant at WrestleMania.
What brought you out here? Why are you here?
Well, Brett, I got tired of remaining silent. I sat back and watched the borders collapse. I watched the economy collapse. I watched the price of gas, the price of food, everything just do an upside down flip. And when they took a shot at my hero, Donald Trump, I realized that I couldn't be silent anymore. I had to step up. I had to be a real American, just like all these real Americans here in Donald Trump. I have a voice too, and I want people to know it's time to talk. It's time not to be silent anymore.
I saw your crowd behind you. You're going to speak to him.
I can't.
Yeah, that was great. And I didn't realize how animated he was going to be. I just thought that was so great. I really did.
He's a ton of fun, and gosh, he look great?
He does.
I mean,
how old is he? Do you know?
Oh my gosh, he's got to be in his 60s, if not late 60s. Does anybody know how old Hulk Hogan is?
I'm not
but
sure.
He looks great. I mean, and apparently, he really takes good care of himself, and
yeah, he looked great.
But yeah, and he's still got those big guns. He was flexing at the end, which I thought was absolutely hysterical.
Yeah,
and how Donald Trump does not just sit there and just die laughing, I don't know.
Yeah,
but the other thing that, and you guys probably have talked about this over the week, but just the look on Donald Trump's face. He's just got a different look in his eye. He's got a different demeanor. I know that they used the word humble a lot, and I know that his sons, they use that word, humble as well. But I can only think of what it must have felt like to have an attack on your life and to
Yeah.
be shot at multiple times. I mean, if that doesn't change someone, I don't know what does. And again, there's a lot of people out there. I was so disappointed to see people that I know posting things like it was a graze on the ear, get over it, things like that. That was really just unnecessary and uncalled for to say something like that, because as he said last night, a quarter inch from taking his life. And not to mention, I think it's really important to make sure that people remember that it was not just an attack on Donald Trump's life. You can hate Donald Trump all you want. It was
Yeah.
not an attack. It was an attack on fellow Americans. And, that shooter succeeded. He succeeded in completely changing and rocking the worlds of many people, every single person that was there, and then of those other 3 innocent rally goers. So I just hope that people can remember that. And so when you're choosing to be so cruel and act like it was no big deal, you need to remember what happened there and be
Yeah.
thankful that you were not in the same kind of situation.
Yeah. And I know, and that has to be profound. And Connie's reminding us that Melania came there and she looked so beautiful. And he was in an interview and this morning, actually, and I was surprised after all of that. He was in an interview this morning and he was saying that Melania, it has been very hard on her all these years and having to protect her son. And it was basically Melania's choice not to have Bear in there because it was so hard. And so you can see a picture. There's a picture right there of Donald Trump and Melania that I believe Bindi took. And it was off of her TV. That isn't fake. That looks genuine to me. I mean, granted, it's a photo, but that woman has been through so much and so many lies, and people just lie and lie and lie about that family. And she stood by him, but she's still a mom and a wife. That has to hurt.
Yes, most definitely. And, Barron was at the rally before the Pennsylvania rally. And so, probably what goes through her mind is, oh my gosh, my young son's life is truly in danger, whether
Yes.
it's an attack directly on him, but as long as he is President Trump's son, there is going to be danger. And, as a mom, you just can't even imagine what that feels like.
That's
so,
correct.
And again, they're a family and they were really, really affected
That's right.
by this. So, but gosh, she just looked so beautiful,
She
so
really did.
graceful. And can you imagine being the wife of a president? I mean, it's got to be really, really taxing.
Yes.
And it's got to probably really affect their relationship too. I mean, how could it not?
Yeah.
Your head's on a swivel. You're looking around at all times, especially now knowing that
Correct.
it's real.
It is real. It is.
There are crazy people out there.
And he knows firsthand with that. And that's maybe I'm just now noticing, but I think politicians are saying today that it is harder to run for office than any other time because a lot of people that run for office, they're stalked. They're, and this is not anything that I'm saying. Andrew Bailey is getting stalked right now. He had said on the air, Governor Parsons being stalked. Josh Hawley has got all kinds of stories of these stalkers coming up to their house. So, Heather's saying on the chat line that she had heard that Melania didn't want him to run again. And that is totally understandable why she wouldn't, because you can only take so much of all of this that's going on.
Well,
sure.
I don't think that she wanted him to run in the first place.
Correct.
His first term. She's very private and she had a very young child, during that time. So, and again, and they spoke about it a lot this week. They had a great life.
They sure did.
He's successful, great family, doing things the right way. And to put yourself in that even larger of a spotlight, and to have even more people look at you and dislike you, I can't say that I would want to be in that situation either.
For sure.
So
and you would have to have a lot of money to be in that situation, because you can't, like, if a normal layperson like myself, there's only so much you can do to protect yourself. And even though you have Secret Service, Donald Trump has ways, and so do other people in office that have money. It's easier to protect themselves. But if you are a commoner trying to do it, that would be really tough.
Yeah.
So I'm personally glad he's running, and I'm grateful that he's running. And Donald Trump talked a lot about God last night, more than I had ever heard him. And that's one of the things that he said, is that the perspective on life, even being pro-life, is now more in the forefront for him, as well as his own life and how precious it is. And he knows that only God Almighty saved him. And Donald Trump Jr. even talked about God last night, and I believe it was with Laura Ingraham, and he always said he was never a spiritual person, but now he can see God's hand on this. So this was huge that happened.
Yeah, when you watch, there's a slow motion clip out there that shows, the exact angle of where the bullet was shot off, and then how he moved his head literally at the last second. And if that is not divine intervention, and again, we've spoke about this before. Right now in our culture, it's the Republicans are the ones, for whatever reason, that have, no problem saying that they believe in God. Their faith is really important to them. And so I hope now that other people that, like what, was it Eric Trump or was it Don Jr. that said that?
I think it was Eric.
Yeah. That maybe they're not that spiritual, but.
Oh yeah. That Don Jr. said he wasn't spiritual.
Yeah. So, when you look at this, it's got to be eye-opening for people to see really how incredible that was.
So,
Yes.
So this was the divine intervention right here.
You're right. Yes, this is what he was looking at on the teleprompter.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was so excited to talk about how well he did with the immigration and with his border policies. And looking up at that definitely saved his life.
Yeah, that's right.
But again, I just think it's incredible how, the Republicans really do tend to stand on their faith.
Yes.
And keeping God in their life and looking, towards him for leadership.
That's right. That's right. And Bindi was saying Franklin Graham's prayer was wonderful last night.
That was incredible.
It was incredible. And he did it in Franklin Graham style. And I looked at Donald Trump's face when that prayer was going on, and it seemed deep and sincere. It just kind of like his speech was different. I mean, it was normally he's, fire and brimstone, meaning Donald Trump. And he was more resolute yesterday. I don't know if that was better or worse. I mean, some people like the fire and brimstone, but I think better or worse, that's who Donald Trump is, at least right now. I mean, we're only a day less than a week when he knows he should, like he got up on the stage and said, I should not be here. And the crowd just was like, yes, you should
are.
fight, fight. So, and like, Ben has a great comment. You can actually say illegal immigration saved his life. I mean, isn't that interesting when you think about that? I mean,
And the other interesting part too, is when Donald Trump was talking about how amazing the crowd in the rally was, how no one panicked, no one rushed, no one stampeded each other.
That's right.
And, when you go back and you watch it, it's almost as if someone told them, hey, in 2 minutes, just stand still.
Yeah.
There's going to be something huge that's going to happen, but just stand still. And even when you watch the people behind him in the bleachers, people were just like looking. Like, I can honestly say I would have hit the deck.
Yeah.
I would have been down on the ground, no phone. I would not have been one of those brave people that continued to have their phone out rolling through the whole thing.
Right.
That would not have been me. I would have been down and out hit the deck. But people really were calm, cool, and collected.
Yeah.
Everyone was.
Yeah, they were.
How that happens?
That has to be divine intervention too, because like he said, there was no stampede. And most things like that, people would be running. There would be even more fatalities from people trying to run out of the place.
Yeah.
And they didn't.
No, they didn't. And, you know, if you go back and you watch any of the other, you know, shootings that have happened in crowds and you have that aerial view, people, and again, I would have been one of them.
Yeah.
They panic, they run, they scream, and it did not happen.
Yeah.
And that was great because that allowed also a clear way for them to get out in the car and get him to the hospital.
Yeah.
So that was great. But, you know, and also just this last week of watching all of the different videos and, you know, that people were showing of the shooter walking around, climbing the building. That to me is absolutely unbelievable. There's so many questions and I know everybody else has them too, but how something so simple could have been let go.
Correct.
I mean, you know, and I've said, you know, there should have been someone, Secret Service, on every single building in that perimeter, outside of the perimeter. I mean, isn't that just common protocol? And so to let all of those rooftops be open to let someone crazy like the shooter get up there is...
Well, and I think we have a picture of the roofs, and I don't know if this is significant, so you guys let me know what you think. There's 2 roofs, and if you could show those roofs, it's one of the last ones we talked about, Joe, and one of the roofs has like Secret Service actually with guns pointing it to the guy, okay? And that's the one on the top. See what you guys think about that. Then the one at the bottom is where Crooks was at. Now, maybe these are just the angles. Somebody sent me that. But do you think the one that the Secret Service are on the top is any more slanted than the one on the bottom?
No.
I don't either. So I think we already know that Kimberly...
If anything, it's the exact same.
Correct. Okay. That makes sense, Joe. And so as we can see that Kimberly Cheadle, she is not answering questions. And so we have another video, Joe, she was Kimberly Cheadle, who is in charge of the Secret Service. People were trying to ask her questions and she was dodging them. And I don't blame if you don't have an answer. However, she is in charge and she says she's not backing down. Yeah. So there's video of that, of her just like running through there. And Projo, whenever you find it, oh, here it is. Okay.
All of us were on the call today. Very disappointed. We were all in the queue trying to answer questions, and until we run out of questions, every one of us had questions that we wanted to ask. We felt we didn't get any of the responses that were necessary from you. Very disappointed in your leadership. I have called for your resignation, and I want you to resign tonight or start answering our questions right now about the death threat to President Trump and allowing him to go on stage in Pennsylvania at a time when he'd already been alerted that there was somebody with a spotter, all these situations already identified an hour before, and you let him go on stage without the knowledge of him, the team on the ground, and you will put him within less than an inch of his life. So resignation or full explanation to us right now.
We kept trying to get our questions in, and he never was running the phone. It did not advance. The director, he was nearly killed. You mean an hour out, you have a suspicious person, and at 5:51, according to the timeline of your deputy, you've identified a potential threat. And then at 5:52, you told, or someone told, that the sniper, that he was there. But can you give us an explanation? Why would anyone allow the president to go on stage when you know you've got a potential threat and you've got snipers that are trained on it? Why? I don't think that this is the
Well, you hung up on. We're here. You cut off the meeting short.
Partners who have helped secure the Republican National Convention
and I was not going to take away from their occasion.
Well, we can find a place to go right now.
Yes. All right, we'll try again. This is
We'll leave with you then.
Yeah, we'll be happy to go from here and thank you very much. I hope you guys
No, we're going with you.
We're going with
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Afghanistan veterans.
Go ahead, son.
No concern. You answer the United States. I'm going to tell you the answer. The answer to us. The answer to us. This is exactly what you were doing today.
This was an assassination attempt. You owe
did
the
nothing.
people answers. You owe President Trump answers.
Go.
Running, but you cannot hide from
To the
us.
people of the United States. You're the head of the Secret Service.
You owe answers.
You owe answers to the Senate, to the House, to the President, the past President, and you owe answers to the people of this
The
country.
president should have this bit of protection for crying out loud. Just like that.
Wow. Dan Bongino wondered why she was even there.
I wondered that too. I really did.
Yeah. What do you make of all
Well,
that?
so apparently she was there to, there's a lot of people that donate to help keep people safe at the RNC. And so she said that she was there, with the donors. So she was, in there whooping it up with all the donors. And that she did not think that this was an appropriate place to answer questions, but she would be more than happy to answer those questions at an appropriate forum. Now, the reason that all of these ladies and gentlemen were so upset is because she had that opportunity on a call the evening before, I believe, or the day before, and she would not answer the questions, and then the call mysteriously got cut off. So, it would make me angry too. So they just want some kind of an answer. If you don't know what your answer is, then just say it. And if you don't, and you are in this position, then you need to not be in this position anymore. So you kind of have to pick which way you're going to go. If you're competent, then you'll have an answer, and you'll have a good answer. So, and if you don't, then you need to remove yourself.
Yeah.
It's this is what she does. This is who she is, and she is supposed to, be the leader and supply the appropriate protection for people like Donald Trump. And
Correct.
it was, this was literally a kiddie show.
Mhm.
We watched it all play out before our own eyes, and so did the people at the rally. One guy, 20-year-old, obviously, mentally ill, got up there, and he was there for an hour acting suspiciously, and people knew that. And he was also 26 minutes, that the Secret Service had their eyes on him. So for this to happen, someone does need to give an explanation.
Correct.
And we heard Trump say that, his detail and his Secret Service people, that he just loves, adores them, and respects them, and is so thankful to all of them.
Yes.
For jumping on him and helping to shield him. And but somebody dropped the ball, and she owes everyone an explanation.
Well, and it would be interesting to see, will we ever really get the truth?
Oh, I doubt it. I
Yeah.
really do. And and still people are talking, was this really a lone act, or were there more people involved? So be prepared to see all sorts of different theories come out about if he did not act alone. We still don't have all of the details that are coming out of his telephone or out of his cell phone yet. But what's interesting to me is that the phone call that his folks made to police about their son had gone missing, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So that whole phone call to me is really odd. He's 20 years old. So I'm thinking, well, how long did it take to drive there? An hour and a half or something? And it wasn't like he had been gone for days. He was there. And his father said that he asked if he could borrow the gun, and he didn't think it was any big deal because, he goes to target practice. But I guess the father's saying that after he asked to borrow the gun and didn't come home for several hours, that he made that phone call. So don't tell me that you don't know that your son is not well.
Right.
If you're going to call the police, you didn't think that he was just, going to go to target practice and come home. And it's not like, he's not 21, so it's not like he's going to go hang out and, get a beer with the guys after target practice.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot, I think, that's going to come to light soon. And that is exactly why we cannot let mentally ill people get their hands on things that kill people.
Correct. And that's a hard thing to find out, because there's a lot of people that if you figure out that they're mentally ill, then how do you take their rights away for a gun? And I'm not saying that's not something that we should do, but that's a scary way to legislate. But yet I agree, there's a lot of people that are doing the shootings that have had known mental issues or psychological reports. And so those are people that you do need to, even if you can't take their gun away right away, you need to watch them. And that's really what's so sad. And we've talked a lot about that this week, that they saw him at least in their sights of concern for over 26 minutes. I know other people saw him there for more than an hour, but it's just really sad. So.
It is. And, also, I don't want to get into a whole Second Amendment issue today, because it would take an entire show to talk about it.
Sure would.
But, I feel very differently, and that's what's awesome is I can be a conservative, but actually, use my own brain, because that's what we're all supposed to do. We're supposed to think for ourselves. I have a problem with people going to buy assault weapons for quote unquote fun. If you think that shooting an assault weapon is fun, I have questions about that. And I grew up with guns. I'm not a fan, but I grew up with them. I saw what you do when you respect them, when you hunt with them, and things of that nature. However, this kid was not a hunter. His father wasn't a hunter either. They were just a lover of guns. And so I think that it needs to be really important to make sure that when you are letting people have these weapons, especially some that could be of mass destruction, into their hands, that you do the due diligence and make sure that you screen these people. And again, he did not buy it, but his father did. And so who do we point fingers at?
Yeah.
Is it the dad? Is it the system? Who? I don't know. But it surely is sad, because it's not the weapon that we need to worry about. It's who's handling it.
That's right.
That's for sure.
And you wonder what his dad, I'm not empathizing with his dad per se, but the parents, they were counselors. And Vic and I had talked earlier in the week about how sometimes counselors are the ones that maybe have had some mental issues, and that's why they became a counselor. And I'm not saying that's the case here, but if they are an empathetic counselor and their son did this, wow. I mean, they are a victim of sorts too, except for if they knew he was an issue and they didn't get him help. And that we don't know.
Yeah, and that would be surprising to me, because both of his parents apparently are well-versed and well-read in mental illness, being counselors, therapists.
Yeah.
So, and again, I know that it's hard to look at your own child in a way that's anything but great.
Yeah.
But I believe that they missed the ball on this as well.
Yeah.
And they are only human, but I think it's very ironic that both parents are people that, really, that's what they do. They look at people and treat people and counsel people for their, for their brain. And their son did not have, he's not the kind of person that should have had his hands ever on a rifle.
Correct.
Of any kind.
Yes. And the parents when you get older, I guess kids watch their parents and know how to get the gun out. And that would be a question I'd like to know. Did the parents know he had the gun that day? If they did, then they could be culpable.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a fine line too. When do you have a child that does bad things and then you're held accountable for it? I mean, there's so much variance in what happened, and it's so much more profound than actually Donald Trump having his ear shot through or grazed. It's such a big issue. And I've heard that there are going to be rallies going forward. And according to Fox and Newsmax, they're saying at this point, they're all going to be inside. And that's probably a great variable because that venue should have been easy to control, but clearly it wasn't, because we're hearing that the gunman, he came in not with the gun. He might have even had it the night before and then hid it. So now in retrospect, a lot of people saw where things went wrong. They actually saw that. So,
well, and I think that the parents had enough red flags. Apparently this kid was bullied in school a lot for his behaviors, the way he dressed, the things that he said to people. And that's unfortunate because no kid should ever be bullied for any reason.
Yeah.
But I think that was a red flag. I think that the fact that he was dressing like a woman, that's a red flag for something going on mentally. I think that having two big, what would you call those things that he had in his lip? What were those, Joe? Those
I think
rods.
they call them snake bites or something like that.
Yeah.
Or they're two piercings right underneath like the nostrils, like their fangs or whatever. I don't know what they call them, to be honest.
I mean, I certainly, if my child came home, especially my son came home and
with some fangs,
grew his hair out and had fangs in and was dressing like a woman, that would be a red flag for me. I probably would not say, okay, son, here is my assault weapon. Go ahead and go to target practice today.
Correct. Because they're conflicted.
I mean, come on.
They're obviously conflicted and having some mental issues. And so you would not give that person a gun. For sure.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And call me crazy. I would not. I absolutely would not. And who knows? I think that also will come, we'll find out if he was being seen for any, mental illness or whatever. I mean, or maybe he wasn't. So,
right.
I think that there's just a whole lot of questions that still need to be answered. But the biggest one being Kimberly Cheadle, why in the world was every rooftop not covered during that rally?
Right. Yeah. And I still would I love Dan Bongino's question. Why was she there? There's a lot of unanswered questions. Maybe that's what she was, maybe she goes there because she is in charge of Secret Service. So that's why she's there. But it's an interesting that we can't get any answers. And Dan Bongino is one that definitely understands Secret Service. So he was the one that asked that question. So, the whole thing is just ridiculous that she came, I guess. But there was so many good people that did came, like Tucker. I don't know, Joe, when you can find that. Tucker is so endearing. And when he first came out, his laugh is so fun. And he laughed. And I saw people commenting about the fact that he came out in rumpled pants. I think that made me like him more in his little rumpled pants. Yeah. So I thought that was great.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I cannot wait though to see what the Democratic National Convention is going to be like.
Yeah.
I mean, I really can't. And what do we think? Do we think that Joe's going to show? Do you think he's going to show for this?
When is that again? When is the DNC coming?
That's not until.
Is that in August?
Yeah,
August. I can't remember right. I mean, that's going to be so boring compared to the RNC, because everybody that went there and just the vibe you get watching it, it was electric is the word that they kept saying, just electric.
Yeah.
And now you see DNC, who do they got? It's so boring. And here we do. We have Tucker. Go ahead and play Tucker. We got Tucker.
I watched the video of what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania about 50 times. I think I was one of about 8 billion people around the world who watched it. And the more I watched it, the more it struck me that everything was different after that moment. Everything. And this convention is different. The nation is different. The world is different. Donald Trump is different. When he stood up after being shot in the face, bloodied, and put his hand up, I thought at that moment, that was a transformation. This was no longer a man. Well, I think it was divine intervention. But the effect that it had on Donald Trump, he was no longer just a political party's nominee or a former president or a future president. This was the leader of a nation. And I watched the video.
That was so good. And he came out in rumpled pants. And I just thought he was so funny. And he laughed. And there was a lot more. We have so many videos. We can't play his whole video. But just when I thought I couldn't like Tucker more, I love that guy. And he just laughed. And he's so supportive of Donald Trump. And he is not really a conservative. He's more of a libertarian.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. He is great. I mean, he just adds spice to everything. And to hear him, his support, I think, is great because a lot of people look to him to see what he's going to say.
That's right.
And what his view is on things. So I think it's great. I cannot hear him enough.
I can't hear him enough either. And I had, a couple TVs on watching from different perspectives. And Fox, it was really interesting because after Tucker got done, Jesse Kelly said, well, we used to know that guy. He had the 8 p.m. slot. We remember that guy after he spoke. And he wasn't saying anything mean, but I thought it was interesting that they did bring up that he used to work at Fox. And he probably didn't have to do that, but he did.
Yeah.
And so if you watch the RNC, it's interesting. Fox had different views, of course, than say ABC had or CNN, because CNN was cracking me up. I can't watch them too long, but I watched it a little bit, and their panel, Van Jones, and I didn't want to play the clip, but I can tell you a little bit about it. Van Jones literally said that it reminded him of 2008 or 2008, when Barack Obama was there, and it was electric. And you could see that people on the panel, be quiet, be quiet. Yeah. Don't give this convention any platitudes or any awesomeness about it. But he did.
Yeah.
And that was CNN.
Well, I am so proud of CNN. They have just been, maybe that's pushing it. Maybe I shouldn't say that. I'm actually pleasantly surprised at them this past week. Just everything that they've said regarding the attempted assassination, the coverage that they're giving. The other night, I thought it was awesome when the families of the 13 in Afghanistan, Fox News, they were doing their own thing while the families were talking, in CNN, and I believe it was MSNBC as well. They continued to let to cover them talking, and I thought that was really, really great.
That's a really good point, because Fox coverage did that a lot, where the hosts were more important, I felt at times, and they're great hosts for the most part that were there, but they often cut people off. And when they cut off the Freedom 13, you could go to CNN, or you could go to alternate, you could have gone on Facebook and seen Donald J. Trump's site. You could have seen Right Side Broadcasting. And even Fox's Facebook page was a little bit different. And I thought the same thing about CNN. But Vic and I have also said that CNN's ratings were so in the tank, they had to start showing Trump things, or otherwise, they had nobody. But MSNBC hasn't got that memo. Has not got that memo.
Yeah. Well, there's going to be some people that are really holding out. But I thought, I think it's really important to make sure that those families' voices are heard. I thought that was awesome that they did that. And it'll be interesting to see how long they stay like this.
Yeah.
And how long they can keep people like Joe Scarborough on the muzzle.
Mhm.
He's starting to get a little bit lippy again.
A little bit lippy.
Yeah, he is. He's getting a little bit lippy again. But and I don't expect him to,
Of course,
turn
he's
into
get
some
lippy. Yeah.
some great guy or whatever. But I do agree that the rhetoric and the divisive talk really does need to stop, because it's not doing anyone any good.
Yeah.
And it's just feeding crazy people, these crazy ideas.
Well, and I guess they knew that they were so crazy that there's two different stories about why they didn't come on Monday, but they apparently they didn't play, the Morning Joe show because they were afraid of what they were going to say. So apparently they knew, or at least thought, that they couldn't keep their mouth reverent the day or the weekend after that all happened.
Yeah.
I mean, that happened on Saturday.
Yeah. And it makes you wonder, like, what did they think he was going to say? Would he have said something as low as he asked for it? Or what do you expect when you say you want to be a dictator? I mean, I just kept wondering, my gosh, if they can't trust this guy, I mean, they've got problems.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a grown man. He needs to be able to have a little bit of self-control, especially after someone else, an innocent person's life was taken, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, and Lori's saying on here she wanted to jump through the TV and smack the reporters while listening to PBS. I did turn on PBS maybe day 2 or 3 just for a second, because Vic had played some of the videos from PBS, not because he's a big PBS lover, but they had a better video for a clip for the show the next day. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to watch a little of it. I agree with Lori. They were insufferable. I didn't expect anything different, but it's, I don't like Joe Biden. I don't like Barack Obama. I don't like Nancy Pelosi. I don't like Chuck Schumer, any of them. Their policies aren't great. I don't think they're very nice people, but I would not celebrate if a shooter was trying to blow their head off.
No.
It's just, that's just mean. And I don't like them, but I don't wish anyone to have this nefarious thing happen to them while they're going to a rally or anything like that. And that just shows the keyboard warriors these days have allowed people to be so much more bold than they would to someone's face or whatever. And so we're living in a very different time.
Yes, that's for sure. And Jay, to your point, talking about JD Vance and in his past, him not liking Trump, I don't think that it needs to be as much of a talking point as they have made it, but I do. I think it's important because he has admittedly came out and said, look, I didn't like the guy at first, but I let him show me, which he did. He proved to him, as well as millions of other people, that he was fit to be president, and he was, his policies were helping our country. And so they want to keep going back and talking about how he, had an epiphany. But I think a lot of people had an epiphany. I'll be honest too. When I heard first that he was going to run, I was like, what?
Yeah.
He's going to run for president of the United States? I absolutely did. You
Yeah.
know, I watched The Apprentice. I loved The Apprentice.
I did too. I was one of those that liked it because it was a good mystery at the end. You never knew why Donald Trump was going to get rid of somebody. You just thought he was going to fire him. And sometimes it came down to money, but other times it came down to integrity or how it affected the whole crew. I liked it too. I thought it was really great.
Yeah. So all I kept, picturing in my mind was this guy that's, sits there and says, you're fired, leading our country. But then as time went on, and then when he was doing his campaign, I started to pay attention, and I was like, man, this guy, he's really, really good. And I like what he's saying. So I think a lot of people had that same, change of thought when it came to Trump.
And that's a good strategy for getting elected, because the people that like Trump, they're going to vote for him. But you got to get the ones that maybe are conservative or independent, and some Democrats that said all those mean things too about Donald Trump, and now sees JD Vance has a change of heart because of his politics, because he sees a different side of Donald Trump that could bring those people to the table. So I think that's what changed a lot. Could you imagine what this past 5 days would have been like if last Saturday, if Donald Trump had turned his head just a millimeter?
No.
This
That
week would
would've
have
just
been
been
so different.
so different and just terrifying and so sad. And I mean, that was live. You know, for something to happen like that, and for so many people to have been watching live, I mean, that's just traumatizing. And as I said, it had to be traumatizing for the people that were actually physically there.
Mhm.
But I mean, there's a lot of us, you know, that are still, you know, trying to figure out what exactly happened and how it happened. So yeah, I think that, you know, he's definitely lucky, but I think our country as a whole, we're lucky too.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Someone was talking about Usha, JD Vance's wife, on here, just not being quite so sure about her. And, you know, I think she's perfect for this. You know, I love having someone that, not just because she's an Indian, but someone, you know, from a different culture, a different background. I think it's great to incorporate that into the leadership of our country. I love that they both are just, you know, they're both so well educated,
Yes.
well spoken.
Well, and someone said when I was watching the RNC, someone made a mention, some other senator was talking about how much they liked JD Vance.
Mhm.
And one of the reasons was, I think in politics, and this is what he was alluding to, there's a lot of cheating going on. And he made a mention that he was one of the ones that didn't do that.
Oh,
So I thought that was interesting. So that gave another perspective on their relationship, that it seems genuine. Because I think anytime there's a lot of power or power playing going on, there seems to be relationship problems. And that's a blank statement. And I'm only saying it because that's what someone said, you know, on Fox the other day about that their relationship seems cohesive.
yeah.
So,
Well, you know, they've got 3 young kids, so I sure hope that it is, because it's always nice to have a strong relationship when you're trying to raise children, and then you get thrown into the limelight like this. There's going to be a lot of extra pressure.
Yeah.
But no, I do. I like her. I haven't heard a whole lot from her.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see, you know, what she has to say and
Mhm.
her take on things. But
And she looked so real. I know this is just a minor thing, but it was so endearing when she was doing her speech. She realized that her hair was like in front of her eye, and she kind of, you know, instead of just leaving it that way, she was just that she's a human. She got the hair out of her eyes as we do on our show, and it was just I liked her, but I do understand why people are reserving judgment. We kind of felt that same way about Mike Pence. We felt that, okay, we don't really know that guy. We don't know Mike Pence. We know he's the governor of Indiana, but what do we really know about him? A lot of people, even at that point, didn't trust him, thought he was kind of a snake, but thought his wife was really cute and she was an art teacher. So, but the difference, I think, between these two is now Donald Trump knows the snakes. He didn't know them before. And I think he thought he could get around and smooth some of the snakes, and he couldn't. And I think his 2 boys, you know, I know Don Jr. is the reason why JD Vance, that was his pick. And Eric's pick was Vivek Ramaswamy. So that it could have been, so really we do know it probably was either one of them, or, you know, I don't get the Rubio thing. And I know that Trump really liked Rubio.
Yeah.
So there's obviously things I just don't see, but Rubio still baffles me. But he too was somebody that, you know, ran against him back in 2016. And if you can make amends, that's glorious to try to unify. So I think because he was almost assassinated, and because Donald Trump has a softer side, and Eric on our show has said from day one, because I liked him from the beginning. So, and I know you did too, Megan, but Eric didn't. Eric is, you know, one of those people that in the 80s, you know, he wants all the politicians to speak nice and be presidential.
Yeah.
And he was warning us at that point, you've got to get the ones that don't like his mean tweeting, that they literally just won't vote. They might not vote for a Democrat, but they just won't vote.
Right.
So I think we're reaching that. I think the RNC has done that. And I think everything that's happened over the last month or so has changed everything.
Yeah. Well, I was really hoping for Tim Scott. I love the guy. I think he's a brilliant businessman. And I think that would have checked a lot of boxes off
Sure.
for
He's a
people
great guy.
that were undecided. And to be honest, I was a little shocked by him picking JD Vance.
I was too.
And a lot of people have asked me, well, what do you think? I mean, what do you think about this guy? He's only, been, really big and deep into the politics for just a couple years. But I really have to just trust Trump. He obviously has vetted all of the guys that were in the running for Veep. And I just have to trust that he knows something that maybe that we don't.
Correct.
He sees something that we don't see yet. So I really am I'm like, okay, you know what?
Yeah.
If he thinks it's a good pick, then I'm going with it as well.
Yeah, that's what I felt too. And I felt really confident when he spoke to, and not only does he talk about good policy, and of course he does the talking points, he's actually somebody that has a lot of poise for somebody that's 39. And I do think now more than ever, maybe that's why, he picked JD Vance, because he knew his mortality almost came to fruition there. So he knew he had to pick someone that could carry this on. A lot of people think that the vice president isn't that important, but if you look at history, they usually become the next president if they stay with the same political party. So I thought maybe their duties aren't that big of a deal, but they're like being groomed the whole time to take the reins over.
I think
it's a very important pick.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that grooming is a perfect way to put it. You're getting you're meeting all the people that you need to meet. You're getting to see how the systems work. You're being introduced to all of the things that you will need to know.
Yeah.
So I think
sure.
it's a perfect opportunity for someone in that position to be enlightened on what could happen, and also to see if you would even want to be in that situation again. His wife could say, "Oh my gosh, I'm done. I'm out. Like you're not running for president. This life is not for me." You just never know. So I think it's a great opportunity and a chance for someone to see what it's going to be like.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. That really does make sense. Well, what makes sense too, I got several of the listeners contacted me, and I'm glad that they did, about Pastor Lorenzo Sewell. I don't know if I said his name right. Sewell. Thank you. Because I hadn't seen that part. I was doing something with my kids and I hadn't seen him. And I went back and watched him. Beautiful, beautiful. So Joe, if you could find that video of Pastor Lorenzo, it was showing how Trump is absolutely getting to the Black community. And then we'll play a clip after that of Joe Biden, who's doing the opposite. So this was great.
My name is Pastor Lorenzo Sewell. I have the honor and the privilege of being the senior pastor at 180 Church. And we were blessed last month to have President Donald Trump come to Detroit, Michigan. Let's go! Can you imagine it? Can you imagine President Donald Trump coming to a city and calling a pastor like me, a pastor who was born and raised on the east side of Detroit? I was mentored by murderers. I was a student of the street. But I had a radical experience with Jesus Christ that changed my life forever.
Beautiful.
Come on, if you believe that Jesus still changed lives, come on, put your hands together and give our great God great glory. President Trump came to a church that is in a Democratic stronghold. He came to a church to listen to average, everyday Americans like you and like me. He came to a church not to speak to us, but to listen to us. He came into a church, and a lot of people, they were upset. A lot of people, they would ask me questions. Why would you allow Donald Trump to come into your church? How many know that the Bible says we are all sinners and we all need the grace of God? How many know that the Bible says, he who has not sinned, let him cast the first stone? President Donald Trump, he came during his birthday weekend. Let me ask you a question. grand old party. What would you do for your birthday if you were worth $6.7 billion? What would you do for your birthday? Would you come to Detroit? Would you come into the hood? He came to the hood because he cares about average, everyday Americans. Grand old party, I need to ask you a question. What would you ask for your birthday? If you could go to Mar-a-Lago or if you could go to New York, what would you ask for your birthday? He asked for prayer. I believe that prayer is preventative and prayer is proactive. I believe that praying in the name of Jesus changes everything. And when we prayed for President Trump, only God knew that 30 days later, there would be a miracle by a millimeter.
Miracle by a millimeter. Goosebumps.
Only God knew.
Wow.
That if we prayed for him during his birthday, there would be a miracle by a millimeter. If President Trump had moved 1 millimeter, he wouldn't have been here on Monday to talk to us about how America was going to be made wealthy again. If President Donald Trump would have moved just a millimeter, he wouldn't have been here on Tuesday to talk about how he was going to make America secure again. If President Donald Trump would have moved just a millimeter, he wouldn't have been here on Wednesday to tell us how he was going to make America strong again. And if President Trump would have moved just a millimeter, we would not be hearing tonight how he was going to make America great again. Before I take my seat, I just got to talk to you about something called providence and something called sovereignty. God's sovereignty is his ability to be able to do what he wants when he wants because he's God. And God's providence, it's when he does what he wants, when he wants for all of you. Did you know that President Trump was shot on 6/11?
Mm-hmm.
And do you know that Ephesians chapter number 6, verse number 11 says, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. To all my Democrat friends, I want to ask you one question. Do you know anybody that was the 45th president? He was convicted of 34 accounts. He raised $53 million in 24 hours and could be the 47th president of the United States in America. And he was shot one time. Do you know anybody like that? To all my friends back in Detroit who are Democrats, I want to ask you just one simple question. You can't deny the power of God on this man's life. You can't deny that God protected him. You cannot deny that it was a millimeter miracle that was able to save this man's life. Could it be that Jesus Christ preserved him for such a time as this? Could it be? Could it be that when we prayed for him when he came to the round table in Detroit, that Jesus asked and he received, that we sought him and then he found protection? Could it be that the King of glory, the Lord God strong and mighty, the God who is mighty in battle, protected Donald Trump because he wants to use him for such a time as this? If you believe that, come on, put your hands together and give our great God great glory.
Oh my gosh, that was so good. And I know it was long, and we try not to play videos that long, but it was
so good.
Wasn't it
so
profound?
powerful? Yes. You know, and I hate to say it, but you know, I thought that the debate was going to be the thing that was really going to give Trump, you know, that big slingshot forward. It was, you know, everybody was like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing that happened to him.
Yes.
But as much as I hate to say it, I think that what happened to him last Saturday was the best thing that happened for the American people.
Yes.
Because I truly think that this is going to get him exactly where he needs to be and to be our 47th, you know, president.
I agree.
I really do.
Everything's different.
Yeah.
I mean, from Saturday to Monday when they started the RNC, everything's different. And so Donald Trump looks different. We have
Yes, he
pictures.
does.
Joe, if you could start showing some of the pictures, and it doesn't matter what order, look at Donald Trump in some of these pictures. He looks different to me. And I know I'm not the only one saying that. Here's Donald Trump. A listener sent me that picture that was actually there that night. And she said that Donald Trump walked in more with his head down, not with the self-assured. It wasn't that he wasn't self-assured, but he was very humbled. That's a different man. And when I saw that, I'm like, okay, if it wasn't Donald Trump, you'd be like, so what? He's walking down. And then look at the second picture. If any of you guys watched this last night, and I don't say his name right, Corey Comparati is
Comparator.
Comparator. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump went over, and so for any of you that don't know this, the gentleman that was killed at the rally on Saturday, this is his fireman gear or his firefighter gear, and his wife had it sent there. And I don't know if Donald Trump requested it but you know Donald Trump wanted it there. Look at his face. He went over to that. He stood behind it, kissed the helmet.
Yes. Yeah.
I
he
was like,
so moved.
He was so moved.
You know?
Yes.
I mean, how can you even imagine how that would feel to, you know, someone that loved you that much to come to your rally and then to lose their life and then their poor family? I mean, you've got to feel some guilt for something like that.
You do.
You really do. And I think what he did was great. And then he even said that he was going to have something special done with his uniform. What that means, I'm not sure.
And you know what he
with
said?
his gear.
He even said that he's going to monetarily take care of them for the rest of their lives. And he said, I know that isn't going to bring him back. I know. And they said that too. This is not bringing him back, but that is so helpful because look at Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Joe Biden, like Freedom 13, he should have been doing the same thing. He is responsible for that. He was responsible, or his administration was, for pulling out. Donald Trump was not responsible for that, but I get where he has survivor's guilt because they came to see him. And look at the difference. Did Joe Biden offer to pay anything for anyone?
No, the guy doesn't even know who his secretary. He thinks his Secretary of Defense is Ketanji Brown.
Oh, stop it.
I mean, the guy has no clue what's going on. And they just keep putting him out there for more interviews and more interviews. And I'm just like, when are you going to stop this madness?
I know.
I mean, he is just digging not only his own grave, but the left's grave.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just getting worse and worse.
Worse and worse and worse.
And I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah. Well, and we have video about that too. So, Joe, if you could find the video, we always talk about how Joe Biden is racist. We do, and how Donald Trump isn't. Yet he's the one accused of it.
Oh, for
and
sure.
and we played that long video of the pastor talking about Donald Trump on his birthday went to the hood, not my words, his, and spent it there. And all he asked for was prayer. That's what he wanted. And knowing Donald Trump, he probably gave a big donation. Then here is our friend here on BET TV. This is where this is pulled from. This is our sitting president right now. Play it, Joe, and you guys can decide for yourself.
I think that, and one thing does change, it's not an excuse and explanation. I would ordinarily be going through black neighborhoods on the foot, working through the neighborhoods. I have a tradition. I close every campaign, no matter what campaign, going into the projects and going down the east side. And, hey, Joe, well, how you doing? You know, everybody, well, just because they're my friends, let them know I'm still there. We can't do that now. Not because of the black community, because it's too dangerous for me to be out walking unaccompanied. So what I'm doing now is trying to keep in touch with as many of my black constituents and letting people know that I'm available. I'm available. It's a reason why I got involved in politics in the first place. Not a joke. Not a joke.
Not a joke.
Oh my God.
Everybody deserves a shot. Everybody deserves a shot. And we've demonstrated, you give them a shot, they step up. They step up in every community. That's why the black community is doing as well as it is now. And it's going to do better.
Okay, so this is what I got out of it. Am I wrong, you guys?
Oh my
Tell me
gosh.
on the chat line, am I wrong? I got out of there that, black communities are so bad now, so he can't even get out there because he might get harmed or shot or whatever.
Well, isn't that where all his constituents are, though?
That's what he
isn't that
says.
all the people?
I mean, he was a lifeguard in the projects, y'all. When, he should be right at home.
And Corn Pop, was there too, wasn't he?
Mousy, Corn Pop, they're all,
And they're
they're
rubbed
all
his
his
hairy
boys.
legs.
Well, there's a couple things that confuse me. He's like, I can't go back in these neighborhoods. And it's not because of the black community itself. It's because of the black community itself, because it's not safe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he can't even keep track of what he's saying. And then he just walks and talks in a circle.
Do you think it's not safe because of the border? Because they're in lower income areas now? Or,
Right.
Isn't that where all his friends that he let across the border stay? Is in the lower income?
The
That's a
only
really good
reason
point.
it's unsafe is because he's unaccompanied. So I'm not sure when the last time that Joe Biden went walking in the projects alone.
I wouldn't trust Secret Service either.
No, that is
Right.
the only reason. It's because he's unaccompanied and he cannot do that anymore. The guy cannot walk alone to get up to go to the ice cream truck, much less they're going to unleash him and just let him walk around
Right.
alone in the projects. I mean, who does he think he's talking to?
I don't know. And maybe he doesn't. I almost think like he's actually saying what he's always felt all these years, that he doesn't really like black people, that he is a bigot. And he said that a lot and got by with it years ago. Now he can't get by with that, but he's softened by, he'll insult black people and then he'll be like, but everybody, everybody, like even black people, like, why are you saying even black people?
Mm-hmm. He's the most passive aggressive, senile person that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing that he did not lose was his passive aggressive under the table jabs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just can't even believe it. It's not because of the black community.
Well, and
it's just
listen
not
to
safe.
Paula. Paula says it's not safe because they know he's a fraud too.
Well, absolutely. And
Good
people
point.
are really, really waking up. They really and truly are. They're seeing the truth for once.
Yeah.
And I just hope that all of those people are registered to vote.
I hope so too.
I can't say that enough. There are so many people
register to vote. That's
that
right.
that have big opinions on especially this election coming up.
Mhm.
And so many people are not even registered to vote.
They're not. And soon it's going to be too late. And I want to see our politicians. That's why we've been asking here in the state of Missouri, our governors, what are you going to do for these communities like in the inner cities and that sort of thing? If you don't ever reach them, it doesn't ever change. And the police officers, they're asking for help from the state. Their mayors don't want to give, and this is not just Missouri, this is all over. The mayors don't want to give any control to the state. And I get that, except for the fact you think it's okay to have your area unsafe instead of give up some of the control, and the money can come from the state. And that is something the police officers want. They want that.
Yeah. Well, and they should have safe neighborhoods. And they should be able to go after the people that are committing crimes and murders and all of the other things. They should have prosecutors that will put them where they need to be, and that's behind bars. But
Right.
unfortunately, they don't. You've got a lot of these liberal cities that are just letting people just run wild. And I think I was asking, was it Bill, Eigel yesterday, what is the purpose of soft on crime? Does anyone have an answer for that? Is there a textbook answer for what soft on crime? What does that do? Who does that help? What is the goal behind the soft on crime? I know that it's supposed to be, we're supposed to be giving these criminals a break because they're a product of their environment, and we're supposed to not be so hard on them. But what gives? I mean, it's not helping. You can live in a fantasy world and you can think that by doing all of these social justice reforms is going to help, but it's not helping anyone.
Correct.
At all.
And it can't get to the point where you're helping the criminal so much that it's hurting the innocent people. You know what I mean? Like, it's impeding on our rights, or it's impeding on us.
Absolutely.
That that there's such soft crime, and that it's just causing more crime.
Exactly. On the people that are doing their part and doing what they're supposed to do. It's just like the illegal immigration, the illegal aliens. It's the same exact situation. We're here legally. Yes, many of us were privileged and lucky enough to have been born in this amazing country, but there are many of us that are working hard and doing what we're supposed to be doing, paying taxes, paying health insurance, paying for our kids to go to college. And then we've got people that are coming in and they are not, and they are breaking the law. They are raping people. They are killing people. They are doing all of these things. So where is this balance supposed to occur? Like, how is it helping us?
Right.
Being the law-abiding legal citizens of the United States, how is it benefiting us? By allowing people that are not supposed to be here to come in. We're putting $6 billion into our educational system because we have all of these illegal immigrant children that we're supposed to be taking care of. Yet our educational system is not even, I think St. Louis is pretty darn good, but for the rest of the country, it's in shambles. It's awful. I mean, California, you don't want to send your kid to a public school in a lot of these areas.
Right.
You have to pay for your kid just to go and just get just an average education. So who knows what the thought process is, but if anybody does know what it is, let us know.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. And even our schools today aren't even the way they used to be. And it's not necessarily there's crime in all of our schools. And this talk is for a different day. It's the subpar education that they're now trying to pass on our kids and all the DEI crap that's going on. So, but I felt a sense of, I guess, pride and a sense of hope. And I know that was one of the things that Tucker said too. He felt a sense of hope. And for the first time, he could look forward to America literally in the last week or so.
Yeah, and that's a good feeling.
It is a good
and when
feeling.
he says something like that, that makes me feel pretty positive too.
Me too, because he's somebody that's been calling out things no one else will call out. But there's other people. There's so many good people on podcasts right now, and they're calling out the truth. But a lot of them don't do it with hope. They're calling it out, and rightly so. We feel hopeless right now, and there's a lot of hope in all of this that's happened the last week. There's now hope, and I agree with the pastor Lorenzo that there's now hope that wasn't there on Friday of last. A week ago, we had less hope. And now we have a lot of hope. And I feel really bad for Corey, the firefighter, that is not going to be alive to see that hope, but he is a hero. He saved his family and he's a hero. And Donald Trump, again, I'm going to mention it again, but Donald Trump kissing his helmet. Wow.
I know.
He was a hero. He saved people when he was a firefighter in Buffalo, and now he's a hero to his family.
Most
and to
definitely.
everybody in America.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think what will give me even more hope, though, moving forward is when the Democrats can figure out what they're doing over in their three-ring circus, whether or not Joe Biden will do the right thing and step down on his own, or whether they're going to have to force his hand. And not because I have any, Trump's going to win. I really do. I can honestly say that now. I have not had the hope that we would get a fair election. I still don't think it's going to be totally fair, but I do feel the tide turning. I think that a lot of people are really seeing Trump right now for his humanness.
Yes.
And I think that that's what's really going to help him get more votes. But for the sake of our country and moving forward, we cannot have this situation happen again. We cannot have someone that is literally falling apart and deteriorating before our eyes and have him continue right now.
Yeah.
As we sit here and speak, he is our commander in chief.
That's scary.
That guy that doesn't even know who his Secretary of Defense is, that guy is calling the shots. And of course, we know that his handlers and some of his puppeteers are really the ones, but still, that should not be it. That, when Trump gets back in, I truly believe he's the one calling the shots. Nobody tells him, no, we're not going to do that. If that's the decision that he comes to after he has sat and, had conversations with his, immediate people, I have confidence in that. I do not have confidence in this, and it should not be happening. We should not have our commander in chief right now in his current state.
That's right. And Donna's saying that she's extremely worried that if Biden steps down, and they're saying, a lot of sources are saying it could be as early as Sunday. And if he does, who will they sneak in there? And she's like, oh my gosh, I wish Biden would not step down. Donald Trump is even with her on that. I heard him in an interview that he still wants, Sleepy Joe, as he still calls him, to run because he will win no matter what. I'm not saying it's too big to rig, but he will win. But you know what? I heard people last night, on all these different RNC things. And I want to say, I can't remember who it was. Now it's slipping. Maybe somebody else remembers who said it. Someone said last night they thought for sure, and they've been saying it this whole time, that they thought it was going to be Michelle Obama. So I don't know what you guys all think.
Oh, Ted Cruz.
Oh, Ted Cruz. That's right. Ted Cruz said that. He did.
Yeah, he said that he thought it was going to be Michelle Obama. I've never even dipped a toe into the Michelle Obama Veep pool or as being the president. Being the president. I just haven't. And I'm not sure why. I just have never just gone there. A lot of
people haven't. A lot of people, but like Ted Cruz, the only reason I dipped my whole self in there was because I don't think they have anyone else that could get enough votes to even rival him at all. But people love the Obamas. They just absolutely do. Now, I think less and less do. That's the only reason I think that. She has no experience.
None.
I get that. None.
And she's not even relevant right now. The only reason why she's relevant is because we keep talking about her being, a candidate.
Well, and they say she's not going to run, but literally Ted Cruz, and he doesn't really have any inside scoop of that. It's just a feeling he had too. But here we are.
Yeah, well, and they can say all they want. I don't believe one word they say. And I do. I agree with Trump. I think that, the safest bet for him to get in is to allow Joe to run again. But here's they
keep their money if they do.
Well, that is true. However, we have to remember that we've got several months going, leading into the election. So right now, I feel like we are a sitting duck. I feel like, and I've said this so many times, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but there are so many, I think, opportunities for foreign countries to take advantage of us right now. And so we just have to remember that, yeah, great, leave him in for November, and we've got an easy win. But we also have to remember, what do we do until
right? We have
until then
3.5 months. Still.
Right,
we do.
So lots, and we've just been shown last Saturday things happen. horrible things
they sure
happen, and
do.
they happen right before our eyes. So, yeah, I mean, I would.
He's not calling the shots. Michelle Obama wouldn't be calling the shots. The sad thing of it is there is people calling the shots, like, Jake Sullivan and Obama and their whole regime. And to us, we keep calling them incompetent, like they're not smart. My opinion is that they're really smart and they don't have to take any accountability for how Joe Biden is ruining the country. And that's exactly what they want done.
Right.
That's exactly what they want.
Well, and they've got several variables that they have to worry about. I think that the Democratic Party right now is like, okay, well, if we leave Joe in, do we have a chance to win? Well, and I would have to say that if he stays, somebody has got to have an inkling that they think that he can win.
Mhm.
But knowing that as well, if he does win, I can really, really, I feel confident in saying that there's no way that the guy health-wise will last 4 years. So that would put Cammie in for our president. I don't think that the left wants that either. So I think that right now they're trying to do anything and everything they can to make sure that he is not their candidate. Because if they cheat again and he's in, Cammie will be our president.
Right.
When, not sure, but it will happen. It's not if, it's when.
Right. And did you notice that she's campaigning while Joey is in Delaware or wherever he's at with his COVID, if we believe that
they're
or
sending
not.
her.
They're sending her out. So that's why I think some people are speculating that they're going to get rid of him and then she would become the president. And she's supposedly trying to figure out who would be her VP. Could you imagine that?
Oh, my word.
That is scary to think. There's so many bad things going on in the world and there's so many political problems. But could you imagine Cammie being our president?
No, you know what?
And who would be the VP?
It's not even like funny to even think about her leading our country. She doesn't even know how to address people. She's so awkward and weird and just juvenile.
Right.
Actually though, lately, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to some of her pressers lately. She's trying to be very serious and very stern.
Yes.
She's really trying to change, her tune. So I think that that's funny too, because it's such a complete flip.
It really is. And like Jeannie's
how
saying,
she normally is.
Now she wants us to take her seriously. And that's absolutely ridiculous. And I have noticed that her cackling laugh, we're not seeing that as much.
No, she's not talking to us like we're kindergartners anymore. Now she's talking to us like we're in middle school.
Correct.
I don't think it matters which Democrat's in there. There's somebody else running the show behind it, like Obama. Obviously, we've been saying it all along, like Obama and
Jake Sullivan.
Right.
Yeah. And Paul is saying they need to hang it up and start planning on the next election if they can even win with that one. I agree. If I was a Democrat, I would just run the sucker. And I hope they do as a Republican. But if I was a Democrat, I would run him knowing they're going to lose. It's only 4 years. It's not 8. And if you're a Democrat thinking, then you can just keep targeting J.D. Vance. God love him. We got to pray for him. They can find somebody in 3 months. They're wasting that person is what they're doing, because somebody might have a better chance against a different Republican than Donald Trump. So I think they're wasting a vote. I really do. And we've got a video, Joe, of Donald J. Trump talking about when he gets in office, what he's going to do about Palestine, what he's going to do forcefully. And I thought he was more subdued last night. But this was one of the few times in that 2 hours that he did get fiery.
We want our hostages back, and they better be back before I assume office, or you will be paying a very big price. We want our hostages back.
I really liked that he wants our hostages back. I thought he tried to do unity most of the speech last night, but he's making it clear to any other country leaders, you better already release them or you're going to have hell to pay. And I think that's what we're going to see in Donald Trump. The Donald Trump that was there before had so much pushback with all those rhinos there. And yes, they're still rhinos, but I think they're more unified. I think like Vic really hates, not with a passion, but he dislikes our Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. Really does. I don't know enough about him, but what I do see is Donald Trump probably is clearly aware of what Vic is saying. But I noticed last night and the night before, just a little bit, he had him sitting there with him. That is showing unity. Not that he necessarily trusts all of his decisions, but I think going forward, Donald Trump, instead of fighting ourselves and fighting the rhinos, he's going to let the rhinos in their fold as long as they're not one of the evil swamp creatures. Now, I know a lot of people think rhinos are evil swamp creatures, but not all of them are. They just have bad policy, but it doesn't necessarily make them not a Republican. That's why a lot of us don't want to call ourselves Republican. We want to call ourselves just patriots. And when Joe and I think you might have been standing there too, when we walked into the building today, there was people that work for the airline here, and they were talking to us too about the RNC, and they were literally saying, and I thought this was really great and how people are seeing Donald Trump, you don't have to be Republican anymore to vote for Donald Trump. You just have to be a patriot. And I know most patriots tend to be more right-leaning, but there's plenty of people that still identify on the local level as a Democrat, but they can't vote for anybody but Donald Trump for president.
Yeah. Well, and as far as the rhinos are concerned, anytime you lose your grip on just common sense, you're going to end up on the wrong side, the far side of wherever you want to be.
That's right.
I mean, that just happens. And so, are there always going to be people like that? Yes, there's always going to be people like AOC, on the left that she's lost her grip on reality.
Yeah, she's not a rhino. She's a progressive leftist.
Yes, so
liberal.
you've got those kind of people on the left. We're always going to have, some of the rhinos on the right. But I think right now it is really important for as much as we'd all love to say that, we're going to unify and the left and the right are going to come together this next election, it's not going to happen. But we at least need to try and find some common ground within our, political party.
I agree, which we haven't done
sure has to happen.
in so long.
No.
Because they're polarized. We even talk about that here in Jeff City in our state of Missouri, and this is happening in other states too, where we can't get along. I mean, we can't get along and we want to get the rhinos out. I get that. But I think the strategy going forward is instead of let the rhino types go to the way of the Democrat, people are relational. And even if you don't agree with politics, if you have a good relationship with people, it's easier to pull them over to the right side of things. And that's what I would like to see any of our politicians do. I get we're in election cycle, so I get there's a lot of this, slinging of ideas and bashing people. And I know that's part of politics that I really don't enjoy. I don't enjoy two good conservatives to get the vote are lying about each other and sending complete falsehoods, because you can't go back from that.
No, you cannot.
You can't go back. But then when it's over and you're done mudslinging, I hope you can get together. And I know that's somewhat naive, but I'm thinking now with what happened to Donald Trump, we have the best shot we've had in our lifetime.
Well, I mean, Nikki Haley, for instance, that's a perfect example. I did not think that girl would ever be speaking on behalf
I didn't either.
Of Trump. Never in a million years. And here she was at the RNC. And so, we are able to put our differences aside, even a little bit of name calling aside when it comes to, to the betterment of the people. I mean, we just have to do it. Somebody's got to be the bigger person.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
That is for sure. That is
so,
for sure.
But yeah, I just cannot, the people that are planning for the DNC right now, how are they going to top the RNC?
I don't know that it's toppable. I
don't think it is either.
Yeah. I think we just saw a miracle. I think we just saw possibly a once in a lifetime thing, because the Democrats overplayed their hands by so much. They backed themselves into the corner so much that it became almost a revival of sorts in the Republican Party.
That's a good way to put it.
And so I think we saw something, and nothing lasts forever. So I just hope the momentum of this can go on for longer than a couple months.
Mm-hmm. I do too. And I understand the sentiment behind trying to unify
I do too.
everyone. But again, I think it's really hard, especially when there is now this cultural divide that we've been kind of talking about the last couple of months. It's more, it's not just your vote. It's not just the D or the R. There's just so much more behind where we are as a culture, whether you're on the left or the right. And so I think it's really, it's going to be a challenge to try and get people to not be so hateful,
right,
and cruel, and wishing bad things and being open about it,
right,
talking about wanting bad things to happen. I mean, we see it on our social media every day, people wishing harm on other people. I mean, it's just mind-blowing.
Right. It is, and people are doing that without knowing a whole story. They'll see a clip or whatever about a politician or about someone else, and they just immediately get hateful. And our society has changed. But I understand how we got here. I mean, I understand that because people have been frustrated for so long and they take a stance on something. And if somebody does something different than they think, they just get irate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not just the Democrats. That's everybody across the board. That's even people that are not political, because it's become easy to spew things about people without knowing all the facts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Last night I was, looking at some of my social media, and a girl that I know and I've known for a long time, and she's a Christian, and she had this post, and it was, this big, you can tell that she copied it from someone else, but it was all about if you are, basically if you vote for Trump, you're anti-trans, and you are taking all rights away from those trans people. And you are not allowed to say that you just know a trans person. That doesn't count. Remember, they used to do that with the black thing. You're not allowed to say you have a black friend. You either have to be, in order to really know a black person, you either have to be married to them or, have a child with them or something crazy like that. But her whole point was, you're not allowed to say that you know a trans, and you're not allowed to speak on behalf of them unless you really know a trans. And I'm like, okay, so now there's different levels of knowing a trans, and you would never in a million years say anything against a trans person. And if you do, that's because you voted for Trump. Just all of the nonsense.
Yeah, a lot of nonsense
out there, and you can't even decipher what people are even saying anymore, because they're so deep into this. They throw the word cult around, but it's almost like they're in a cult. They just believe all of these random crazy things.
They do. I agree, because a lot of people have called the MAGA people a cult.
Yes.
And it's just people who really want their country back. And everybody wants to identify with something. And it's the first thing. Maybe it is just a tagline, but when you break it down, that it's not just MAGA. It's, you really want to make America great again, because it's still the best country in the entire world, but it's not great. It's not the way it once was. And there's no shame in wanting to make the place that you live better than it's ever been. There's no shame in that whatsoever. And when Donald Trump, we've got, I think, our last video, Pro Joe, and it's Donald Trump talking a little bit. We probably won't play the whole video, but it was talking about how he almost lost his life. And it kind of set the tone for why this was so long last night, I think.
Let me begin this evening by expressing my gratitude to the American people for your outpouring of love and support following the assassination attempt at my rally on Saturday. As you already know, the assassin's bullet came within a quarter of an inch of taking my life. So many people have asked me, what happened? Tell us what happened, please. And therefore, I will tell you exactly what happened, and you'll never hear it from me a second time, because it's actually too painful to tell. It was a warm, beautiful day in the early evening in Butler Township in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Music was loudly playing, and the campaign was doing really well. I went to the stage, and the crowd was cheering wildly. Everybody was happy. I began speaking very strongly, powerfully, and happily because I was discussing the great job my administration did on immigration at the southern border. We were very proud of it. Behind me and to the right was a large screen that was displaying a chart of border crossings under my leadership. The numbers were absolutely amazing. In order to see the chart, I started to, like this, turn to my right and was ready to begin a little bit further turn, which I'm very lucky I didn't do, when I heard a loud whizzing sound and felt something hit me really, really hard on my right ear. I said to myself, wow, what was that? It can only be a bullet. And moved my right hand to my ear, brought it down. My hand was covered with blood, just absolutely blood all over the place. I immediately knew it was very serious, that we were under attack, and in one movement proceeded to drop to the ground. Bullets were continuing to fly as very brave Secret Service agents rushed to the stage, and they really did. They rushed to the stage. These are great people at great risk, I will tell you, and pounced on top of me so that I would be protected. There was blood pouring everywhere, and yet, in a certain way, I felt very safe because I had God on my side. I felt that. The amazing thing is that prior to the shot, if I had not moved my head at that very last instant, the assassin's bullet would have perfectly hit its mark, and I would not be here tonight. We would not be together. The most incredible aspect. Stood by and didn't move an inch. In fact, many of them bravely, but automatically stood up looking for where the sniper would be. They knew immediately it was a sniper. And then began pointing at him. You can see that if you look at the group behind me. That was just a small group compared to what was in front. Nobody ran, and by
all right, Joe, we can go out of that.
Many lives were
saved. We can go out. Because our video, for whatever reason, is going in and out. People are saying the sound of the video is going in and out.
Something happened, and I accidentally stopped sharing it.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. No biggie.
Yeah.
No biggie. We got the big bulk of the part that we wanted to talk about is that God has changed this man.
Yes.
And he's more subdued. I think he's more melancholy, but I think he is just so grateful. And according to his kids and himself, he's not going to give up. And that is so beautiful to see.
Yeah, it really is.
It's great. It's just great. Well, and speaking of great, this has been a wonderful show. And I hope Vic is having a wonderful time. He will definitely be back on Monday. He was on a planned vacation the last couple days, and he will be back. And let's pray for Vic, because I think he has been affected by the outage, the cyber outage.
attack.
Yes. So he'll be back, God willing, on Monday. And if he's not, it's because his plane didn't come back. Just like all the RNC people, some of them are stuck. So, if not, you might see Megan and I again on Monday, possibly, if he's stuck where he's at. So, but
it was a great show.
It was very good, very good. And I know, somebody said that we were a little bit more somber, and I think that we were, but it was like, it almost needed to be that way because Donald Trump set that tone. And so I felt bad about coming in here and being our normal woohoo self.
Yeah.
Because our president was almost killed.
Well, right. And I'll just be honest. I mean, this whole entire week, it's just been a lot to take in.
It really has.
And then just a lot of our conversations on the side between all of us here. There's just a lot to take in. And
there really is.
But it's exciting now. He's good. He's good to go. And he spoke last night, and we got to hear him, and we got to see that that he's good, and that makes me feel like our country's on the right track.
Well, and look at the picture. That just got me. There's Eric, who I really think he had one of the best speeches of the whole week. Just my opinion, because there were so many good ones. And there's Donald Trump with his, kind of a cheesy grin, and his granddaughter. If you guys got to see this part, as her mama, Laura Trump, went by, she's the one that went on Grandpa's lap. So nobody can tell me after what they showed this last week that isn't one family man that his children and his grandchildren adore him. And I wish that for everyone that listens. I wish that for everyone, that you have people in your life, even if it's not your children, whoever it is, that adore you. I wish that for all of you. I wish, because Donald Trump, through all of the hell he's been through, he's adored by his family. And that's why he can get through this.
Well, and another, point I'd like to make is, this entire week, it's been really about family. Every single speaker up there has talked about what a beautiful family he has, how great his kids are, how much his kids and grandchildren and their spouses and significant others just love and adore him. And last night when they were all sitting there, I was thinking of Joe Biden at the DNC, and, it's just a different scenario. And I don't want to get into, trying to bash the guy, but, he doesn't even acknowledge some of his own grandchildren. And so it's a very different dynamic. And so I just picture him sitting up there. The whole feel very differently. I doubt that there'll be a little, 3 or 4 year old grandchild sitting on his lap.
That's right. And the kids and two people have said that they love to go into Grandpa's office and they love to go find Grandpa because he has bowls of candy for them. And that's what grandparents should do.
That's right.
And but then besides candy, he calls them. He shows up to things. He calls even them in the middle of a school day. So this is not the man. I'm glad this RNC showed this. This is not the man that they want to vilify. It just really isn't. And they just keep bashing him. But there's several people on this chat line, and I agree that I'm thinking he seems somber and had survivor's guilt. But a lot of people on the chat line are saying that might be so, but he's also now resolved that paybacks are going to be a bitch.
Yeah.
And
well, and that's another thing to really think about, because, you keep hearing him say that the best revenge is just going to be in his success and what he does and how he runs the country. And, and that there's really no revenge that needs to take place directly. Now, to me, though, there's a big difference between revenge and justice.
Yes.
I think that what happened to him, someone that I'm very close to, says that he needs to just pardon everything and expect the same in return, be the bigger person, let everything go, pardon Hunter Biden, all of these things. But I think that there's a fair way to do things.
Yeah, I don't see pardoning Hunter Biden when he slept with little Chinese girls and stuff.
But not even just that, just everything that he went through with the 34 felonies coming against him and, all of these things. And that was a weaponization of our justice system, and that cannot happen again.
That's right.
If he gets out of it and everything gets overturned, like some of the things that are already happening.
And I think
we're
that's
watching
what's going to happen.
But if not, we cannot allow this, banana republic anymore
That's right.
in our country. So I don't know that he should just completely turn his cheek to everything that's happened to him. I don't think that that's going to unify us anymore.
I think he needs to show the strength that we already see now that he's loving, and we already see that he was a great president. And I agree that the best payback is success. And I hope that's where he goes. But some of the success is turning around this banana republic you're talking about and turning it around and restore law and order.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And we have to just remember that we had a constitution written up for a reason. That is what our country is based on. And it was founded on the principles of Christianity. You can try to slice it and dice it any which way you want.
Yes.
So if we're going to have a constitution and not follow it, then what is our country based on?
Right.
So
a banana republic
instead
of a constitution.
Correct.
Well, you guys, this was a great show. It was really great. And we were more serious than we normally was, especially for a Friday, but we felt like we had to be. We had Vic out of town. Some people were asking for Eric. He is in Lake of the Ozarks with Platinum Rock Legends. He will be back next week. So next Friday puts another week in between us and what happened to Donald Trump. So, everybody was in agreement that we had to honor what happened, not make it as funny. We apologize for not being funny on a Friday because, you know what, guys, I like being funny more than serious. We just wanted to be reverent about what all happened. And next Friday, we'll be back with everyone. Kelly should be here. Eric said he was going to be here. Vic will be back on vacation, God willing, with the airline situation. And I will be back. Projo will be back. And Megan, we appreciate you filling in. And for any of you guys that don't know this, Megan is part of the team. And she talks to us, 30, 40 times a day with research and stuff like that. So we are definitely a team. And we could not do this without all of us. We all love each other a lot and we get along and we spar. But this is one big happy family. And we also could not do this show without you guys. You guys are awesome. We love you guys. We pray for you guys this weekend. We hope you have a glorious weekend. We pray for Donald Trump that is supposed to be at another rally, I believe tomorrow. I can't remember where it is, but it is tomorrow. So let's pray for him. And we are out and we love you guys and have a great weekend.